she will not go until you agree to each other on how to move upon a certain issue.
I want to thank God for giving us our humble leader.
Such reasons were not so different from those advanced towards the parliamentary approval of Robinah Nabbanja as the Prime Minister. Minister for Information Designate Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, in his motion, described the Kakumiro woman Member of Parliament as a leader who is all round.
She will bring energy in that office of the Prime Minister. She will bring passion in her work. She will bring stamina in the work as the Prime Minister. She will bring ability in that office of Prime Minister.
You first of all have to understand the vision and the mission of your appointing authority. Do we doubt that Honorable Nabbanja does not understand the vision and the mission of His Excellency the President?
Overwhelmingly supported by the legislators, she was officially approved.
Those in favor say aye.
In their acceptance, both affirmed commitment and energy towards national service.
Ugandans expect and are yearning for quality service delivery from government. This we can do, or this we can achieve, if we put our minds together and focus on timely implementation of government projects and programs.
The time for politicking has come to an end, and I am therefore counting on each one of you, and indeed all Ugandans, regardless, to support me as I embark on this very important assignment.
A section of members of parliament have high expectations in this dynamic duo.
Respect for the rule of law, the constitution, and upholding the values and serving the country.
We expect that they don't change that character, that they are not taken up by the offices they are taking up, but they remain human, true to themselves, and serve the country.
Because of the mobilization skills that she has, and I'm sure with her hard work, Parliament is not going to suffer with lack of business in the House.
Robinah Nabbanja becomes the first woman in Uganda to hold the position of Prime Minister, as Jessica Alupo is the second woman to be Vice President. Henry Okrut, UBC.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Now, the Parliamentary Appointments Committee also kick-started the vetting of the newly elected ministers on Monday afternoon. The ministers vetted and approved on Monday afternoon included the First Deputy Prime Minister, Rebecca Litwala Kadaga, who was vetted via Zoom, Second Prime Minister, General Moses Ali, Third Deputy Prime Minister, Rukia Nakadama. The circular also indicated that Education and Sports Minister, who also doubled as the First Lady, Janet Museveni Kataha, was among those to be vetted today. Others cleared Minister for Health, Dr. Ruth Acheng, Minister for Presidency, Maria Doha Babalanda, Attorney General Chiriowa Chiwanuka, Minister for Security, Jim Muhwezi, Minister for General Duties in the Office of the Prime Minister, Justin Kasule Lumumba, and the Government Chief Whip, Thomas Tayewa. The ministers UBC TV managed to speak to after the vetting all pledged to work for the common good of the country.
One, they want to see how we will be working as women in such an office, because that office is mainly dominated by women. So they want to see our cooperation. In most cases, when you see women in same places or at the same level, they tend to fight. But I have assured them that there is no reason why a person like me start fighting because there is a woman.
Well, if you're asking about commitments, the committee wants to know whether we are going to have vaccines for COVID, and yes, we are prepared to ensure that vaccines are available. The committee wants to know whether the country will have adequate oxygen for those who are sick. And I will be telling you about oxygen when I am back to office, because I have not been in office, so I will not comment on that. And the committee wants to know if they are going to get appropriate accountability for COVID-19 funds. And yes, we must give accountability. There must be transparency and accountability in whatever actions we take.
All right, now the Lieutenant General Andrew Guti and 21 other members of the court-martial have this Monday morning taken oath of office. The ceremony was presided over by Judge Advocate Colonel Richard Kungura, and Lieutenant General Guti is serving his sixth term reappointment as the Chairman General Court Martial after the death of Major General Levi Karuhanga, who was the chairman by then. Our reporter Deborah Namamonde with more.
At 11:30 a.m., 18 National Unity Platform supporters were read at the General Court Martial in Machindi to proceed with the hearing of their bail application. Prosecution led by Captain Ambrose Guma informed the court of their intentions not to object to the accused bail application. On this, they left it to court's discretion. The General Court Martial led by Chairman Lieutenant General Andrew Guti, which stood for only 10 minutes on resume, was pressed to grant all the accused bail.
That the offense is bailable, free, that the sureties presented were substantial. This court finds merit in the application and hereby grants bail to the applicants on the following terms.
Lieutenant General Andrew Guti to grant the accused bail based on the substantial sureties presented by the accused persons to court, being that the offences against them are bailable in nature, among other grounds.
The applicant should not go beyond the limits of Kampala and Wakiso district without court's permission. The applicant should report to this court twice a month after every 14 days on Wednesdays. Each of the applicants are bound to 20 million shillings, not cash. Each of the sureties presented is bound to 50 million shillings, not cash. Breach of any of the above terms will lead to automatic cancellation of bail.
The accused were overwhelmed with joy after being released on bail. Talking to the press after court, Geoffrey Tuliamusima, counsel for the accused persons, was pleased with the court's ruling on bail.
All that is not primary. What has been primary is that justice should be seen, and today justice has been seen, and they have released all of them.
Lewis Lubongeya, National Unity Platform General Secretary, however, requested court to release the other NUP supporters who are still pending with their similar offences in the same court.
It's a bit relieving because we've been having a lot of pressure from their families. Some of their parents are sick, others their children are sick. So they have so many family responsibilities. Their children have not been going to school, so many problems.
Among those released on bail include Eddie Sebu for alias Eddie Muntwe, Tumwejoche Lukman, Buken Ali alias Nubian Lee, Oyeto Daniel alias Dan Majiki, Tamale Ibrahim, Chivumbi Okileo, Onzima Godfrey, Chivumbi Roberti, and Kalamaji Alex, among others. The accused were later dropped to the party offices in Kamoche. The 18 who have been released on bail, among the 31 who were released on bail by the same court area this year. Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
All right, now those are the visuals for the General Court Martial in Machindye before Lieutenant General Andrew Guti has finally released Eddie Sebufu, aka Eddie Mutwe, Nubian Lee, and 16 others on a non-cash bail of 20 million Uganda shillings. Now, the accused were, however, given stringent bail terms not to go beyond the premises of Kampala and Wakiso, and whoever attempts to do so, this will lead to automatic cancellation of bail. All right, now moving on, the Ministry of Health is in the process of installing a 70 meters cubed plant of oxygen to be completed within 2 weeks at Mulago Hospital. The hospital administration revealed that the surge in the numbers of COVID-19 patients has created high demand of oxygen, but assured the public that the hospital can handle as per now. Our health reporter Zahara Abigaba filed this report.
Mulago National Referral Hospital currently requires 100 cylinders per day. But however, due to the increased demand of oxygen in the country, sometimes the hospital finds it difficult to meet this demand. The hospital administration at Mulago revealed that the surge in numbers of COVID-19 patients has created the high demand of oxygen, but assured the public that currently the hospital can handle.
The patients that have COVID need much more oxygen than the sick patients who are in a normal ICU, requiring 70 liters of oxygen per minute. And yet, the normal patient in a normal ICU requires between 1 and 10. So, one patient in COVID ICU consumes the oxygen that would be required by 10 very sick patients in a normal ICU.
Despite of the weakened assurances, the Ministry of Health is in advance to install a 70-meter cubed plant of oxygen, which they say will be completed within 2 weeks at Mulago Hospital. In 24 hours, the oxygen plant at Mulago Hospital can generate about 2,999,520 liters of oxygen, which in normal circumstances can serve over 900 patients. The hospital has 4 fully functioning oxygen plants, with 2 others being upgraded, as the Prince Administrator explains.
We are installing a new plant of 70 cubic meters to supplement on what we already have, so that the production is high. Somebody asked how much oxygen do you need in a day? We need over 4,000 liters per minute, over 4,000 liters of oxygen per minute. And now, at normal production, we can only produce 2,083. So we are trying to bolster the capacity of the oxygen plant so that we produce more oxygen, but also we are working with the partners to ensure that we have constant flow, constant refill of oxygen cylinders, so that at no point do we have a break. Because
at the moment, the hospital is admitting critically ill patients that demand high levels of oxygen flow. The team from the ICU demonstrated and showcased what happens at the ICU.
Oxygen is the maximum this machine can produce. And when it is on, the higher the percentage is, the faster the oxygen goes. Now the challenge with these patients, most of them demand that. That explains why one ended up using 3 or 4 cylinders of this giant size in 24 hours.
The executive director of Mulago Hospital demystified allegations that Mulago is full to capacity.
The treatment is entirely free. How do I mention it? 0000. Free. 000000. Except if there was like a drug that the patient needed that was not there, that sometimes the patient may be allowed to contribute. Kawan broke the whole of B, the whole of C, 5A, 6A. What? How do you tell me that we are full? Who is telling us that? I don't know where those things are coming from.
The medics at the National Referral Hospital call upon Ugandans to adopt preventive measures through observing the standard operating procedures in order to reduce on the numbers of patients seeking for hospitalization. Zahara Abigaba, UBC.
Now, in our special report tonight, COVID-19 is ravaging Uganda, with those contracting the virus in the second wave hitting an average of 1,000 cases daily. Now, those dying 2 have hit a mark of 434, with minimum chances to live of those affected if the disease is not detected early enough. Now, our reporter caught up with a COVID-19 patient who is battling COVID-19 at home. Now, for purposes of protecting the identity, we shall keep the sources in the story anonymous. Take a look.
The COVID-19 second wave is detrimental compared to the first wave at the onset in early 2020. In the suburbs of Kampala, I went to visit a COVID-19 patient who has tested the wrath of the second wave of COVID-19. I will keep her profile anonymous and the voice as she shares her story.
Inside the house, I will make sure my mask stays on. Preferably, sometimes I even put on 2 masks inside the house, because there are young children who forget to wear theirs. So I make sure at least I have double protection for their safety.
Katrina Cruz, not real names, is 35 years old, a mother of 2, and for weeks she is battling a deadly virus, COVID-19. It started as a normal flu and cough, but the situation got tense. Katrina went to hospital. Unfortunately, it was full.
And I had to make arrangements for me to find another hospital. Everywhere I would go, they would insist on me doing the test, so I just went for it, believing I was negative.
She is later told by the doctors that she has tested positive for COVID-19.
So I started looking back at the different changes that I had started experiencing. Then I was like, it is for real. COVID exists.
For only 2 days in the hospital, the bills multiplied to unreasonable sums. She was discharged, though still unwell, but told the contraction is mild. While at home, Katrina keeps her gloves and mask on as she interacts with her children.
They're also getting worried. The old one who can ask that, "Mommy, did you hang your mask near my masks?" That is how vigilant I've also become. I have to stay hand-gloved because I might use the phone and they need to play game. So they complain, "Hey, always we share the phone, how come?" But I have to make sure I'm hand-gloved, and then I tell them, "Have you sanitized the phone?" When I'm using the phone, I use it through the mask, because I know they might get a hold of it without my knowing at some point. So we are together as a family, but there is that gap, we miss each other.
She is able to cook, but with precaution.
So this is the kind of food that this COVID-19 patient really does cook. It's sweet, and I think so soon my eating habits as well will kind of change.
I have to make sure I use the same water bottle. I have my water bottle, I have my juice bottle. I have my own plate. As soon as I finish using it, it has to be put where? It has to be washed with soap and water. I don't have to mix it with the rest. I have my personal cup, but this is specifically for my tea. I tell them don't share it.
Early morning, she wakes up to sunbathe, takes lots of acidic foods and hot drinks. Katrina steams daily for about 20 to 30 minutes. She does this 3 times in a day.
I will sweat and all the pores are open. You have to make sure your chest is open, your head is accessible, and your hands are also within your covering. So I will make sure I've steamed enough.
She does the same to her 2 children. The good news is that families are able to live with COVID-19 patients if discharged following COVID-19 health guidelines. But how did Katrina contract the virus? Public transport, she narrates.
Because you leave work in the evening, by the time you reach the taxi park, you have to fight for taxis and those hostels. So in the process, you're pushing each other to want to create space to find a way of entering yourself, and then they will take more than the required number because all of you want to get home, or at times even miss out. After fighting at the hassle, almost breaking your knees and your legs, you fail to enter. So everyone has touched you, everyone has been breathing so close to you, you miss out on that coaster or the taxi. So you sit back and wait. All of you are congested on the stage.
COVID-19 can attack anyone, regardless of the level of vigilance. It is therefore everyone's responsibility to save your neighbor's life. Katrina got her first jab of COVID-19, and at the time she contracted COVID-19, she was planning to take her second jab. Be responsible and follow the available preventive measures of COVID-19.
Wow, that's a very, very important message right there. Be vigilant and make sure that you take all precautionary measures to avoid getting COVID-19. Thank you, Ivan Kauha, for that special report. Now, moving on, the head of the Scientific COVID-19 Task Force, Dr. Monique Musenero, has revealed that the overwhelming numbers of COVID-19 patients have started to worry scientists. Musenero affirmed that while in the next 2 weeks, government will have made a positive headway in scaling down the numbers of COVID-19 cases in Kampala and the neighboring districts of Wakiso and Mukono. But there's a looming escalation of new COVID-19 cases in the countryside following the migration of students and other Ugandans who left Kampala shortly after the announcement of the partial lockdown.
On 7th this month, the president directed the closure of schools with immediate effect. This was due to an increment in the COVID-19 cases and deaths in schools. The directive was geared at scaling down the numbers of COVID-19. However, the reverse seems to be worrying scientists about the overwhelming numbers of COVID-19 cases among the children, not excluding those losing lives to COVID-19.
Academic institutions, the schools and the universities, they violated the SOPs. When schools were told to have only one class at a time, first level, we said, okay, let's be having 2 classes at a time. And this was not fully thought through.
Dr. Musenero says that the cause of the increment in COVID-19 cases was caused by a relaxation and failure to enforce laws put to curb the spread.
The SOPs were not that being observed in January, but then we had that dry weather. We had that, so it went down.
Now, what direction is the government taking to scale down COVID-19 cases and save the lives of Ugandans?
So our first target as a task force is control the rate at which people are infected in the community. And that's the primary thing we are doing. Then the second thing is we have built a lot of capacity since COVID started. We now have every regional hospital has 10 ICU beds.
She, however, warned the public and parents against self-medication as they embark on food nutrition.
Don't medicate the children. Don't go buy azithromycin. Don't go buy zinc. Don't go. The best treatment you can give your child now is a balanced diet. Give them a balanced diet which has carbohydrates, 70%. Children are growing, they need energy, they need the portion. All causes stress of the respiratory system. Steaming when people have congestion and what, but not too much because some people are going even to harm, to injure.
Uganda's cumulative COVID-19 cases have pushed to 63,099 with 48,480 recoveries and 434 deaths. Irene Faith Nantongo, UBC News.
Prices of local concoction of home remedies in the fight against COVID-19 have raised in the urban markets in and around Kampala. A high demand of them as part of self-medication. According to vendors, the partial lockdown on inter-border cross movements is bound to worsen the situation since the rural areas are the biggest producers of these local concoctions. Our reporter Lydia Chamukama with more.
Unlike the first wave of COVID-19, the public has focused much on self-medication as the first line of treatment to conquer the spread of COVID-19. Apparently, different sections of the public believe in different concoctions in the fight against COVID.
With garlic mixed with honey is very nice. It actually soothes the throat. And we're saying you can take this 3 or so times, and the older children also can can take this, and it's useful. It will not do a lot to the virus itself, but it will create symptomatic relief, the tightness in the chest or the pain in the throat.
A tour of different marketplaces in and around Kampala to ascertain the alleged scarcity and skyrocketing prices of these concoctions indicate that the varying prices and scarcity is determined by the forces of demand and supply.
Bannange ye niimu yagenze wala enniimu batunda enniimu emu nnusu 10
babijjumbidde nnyo abantu babigula buli omu abibuuza ate tebirabika.
While market vendors have taken the advantage of the high demand for the concoctions, the partial lockdown on inter-district border movements is contributing much on the scarcity of the concoctions, since much of the supplies come from up-country.
Wansi singa abalimi babadde basobola okunoonya mu disitulikiti zonna naye kati tebasobola kufuluma mu disitulikiti eno genda mu eri kugireeta kati owaloola bamukyajinga ssente nnyingi.
However, there is a mystery on whether much of these concoctions are local grown or exported in the country. Despite of this, vendors are pledging with government to allow the transportation of these local remedies to conquer the spread of COVID-19 cases. Lydia Chomkama, UBC News.
Now, the crackdown on COVID-19 vaccine theft is still on as police confirms more 250 stolen vaccines from private hospitals, bringing the number to 850 doses recovered from the initial figure of 600 reported last evening. The police spokesperson, Fred Enanga, says several suspects are under investigation with their connections. Interim police investigations indicate that government hospital administrators were involved in the cartel. Take a look.
Uganda police has vowed to stand any intimidations from different authorities concerning the raid made on different private hospitals, which saw over 850 COVID-19 vaccines recovered. This follows an amplified call for apology from different suspects, like First Pharmacy, where police allegedly confiscated 803 COVID-19 vaccines. However, First Pharmacy has treated the police investigative reports as baseless.
What we are seeing is that there is that attempt by some of the pharmacies that were involved to try to correct their image. There's a lot of negative propaganda that is going on, showing that some of our officers could have been transferred or negatively impacted on, which is not true. There is no transfer that has taken place. Our officers from the Directorate of Crime Intelligence are still active and expanding investigations.
Despite the public outcry over COVID-19 vaccines, which is supposed to be free of charge, it is alleged these private pharmacies were selling the vaccine between 100,000 to 300,000 Uganda shillings to the selected class of people.
We want to go back to some of these health facilities where these empty vials were supposed to go back, because we believe there was conspiracy. And
in Mbale district, a health officer was arrested over stealing an oxygen cylinder from the government hospital. Cherotich Jacobo is alleged of taking advantage of the current oxygen crisis in many government health facilities to channel the not-for-sale oxygen for personal self-centered motives.
We had one oxygen cylinder, but we believe that the owner of the pharmacy, known as Nyongesa, who is an employee of Mbale Referral Hospital, has a lot of accountability to give us. So we are still working with the Ministry of Health officials to first establish in the inventory of the oxygen cylinders.
In the ongoing enforcement of anti-corona guidelines, police have arrested over 1,429 suspects in the last week, impounded several motorcycles and vehicles.
A total of 1,429 suspects were arrested for flouting the anti-COVID-19 measures. We impounded 376 motor vehicles and also impounded 3,655 motorcycles. Other areas of impunity and disregard for the health SOPs and protocols were in bars and some of the hotels. Despite the devastating situation, there are people who still lead reckless lives and even ignore the harsh reality that we are actually facing. So we are very ready as the joint security agencies to deal with such COVID-19 offenders and defaulters decisively by continuing to issue fines, penalties and further sanctions where necessary.
Police, however, has played down allegations implicating many of its officers in extortion scandals in the enforcement of the partial lockdown on inter-district border movements. However, the force mouthpiece was quick at recommending local support despite of the public outcry on operational commanders in breach of the presidential directives on partial lockdown.
We know is that there are some border riders who organized themselves and they were helping in policing the border sector. If you can notice, a number of borders had stopped carrying more than one passenger. Wherever they were getting somebody with 2 passengers, they would try and use the local support initiatives to impound and forward to the police. The same applies with the taxi operators. They have also been assisting our traffic enforcement team in ensuring compliance in the transportation of passengers within the Kampala metropolitan area.
In other related investigations, in Hoima district, in the Badekera Juliet, a head teacher of Yana Day and Boarding Primary School and other teachers were arrested over conducting lessons in disregard of the presidential directive on the closure of schools. Abdul Nasir Lubwama, UBC News.
Uganda prisons have expressed worry over the increasing COVID-19 numbers arising from inmates. The increase emerged from the arrests of people abusing the COVID-19 guidelines.
Before the second wave of COVID-19, the numbers of inmates had reduced to about 40%. Today, prisons are overwhelmed with the increasing numbers of inmates that came with the partial 42-day lockdown. Since courts have been partially closed, Uganda prisons have set only 2 days, Tuesday and Thursday, to transport victims for hearing.
Those who are having urgent matters that there must be a hearing, the days agreed upon were Tuesdays and Thursdays, because court suspended normal hearings. But there are those urgent cases where people must be in court.
Uganda Prisons has also suspended visitation for a while as a way to curb the spread of COVID-19.
All visitations to the prisons are suspended with immediate effect, regardless of vaccination status or testing certificate. So we have gone back to the original position where visitation to the prisons was totally not acceptable.
Meanwhile, weekly trainings for regional prison commanders are set to begin as a campaign geared at sensitizing prison wardens on how to manage COVID-19 in prison detention facilities.
In order to get the updates, in order to give the guidelines and understand the situation of what is going on.
The number of inmates has increased by 53%. However, the prison mouthpiece Frank Baine says there is no cause for alarm since only 1 death has been registered in the prison facilities, contrary to earlier social media reports. Shaidat Nasaku, UBC News.
The Forum for Democratic Change, FDC, has closed all its offices until further notice. The closure follows the increasing numbers of patients and deaths related to the COVID-19 pandemic across the country. Now, while addressing the media during a weekly press briefing at Najanankumbi, the party's deputy spokesperson, John Chikonyogo, says this is meant to protect their workers and people who visit their offices from contracting COVID-19. Our reporter Farida Nafaku with the details.
The rate at which COVID-19 is spreading in Uganda is alarming. Opposition members have attributed the situation to laxity in observing the standard operating procedures and to other section of the public taking the disease as a joke. The deputy spokesperson of the main opposition party, the Forum for Democratic Change, John Chikonyogo, alleges that The irregularities manifested in government officials on the National COVID-19 Task Force during the implementation of measures in the first wave made people believe that the situation was political. The party disagrees with the current COVID-19 figures of patients and deaths being read by Ministry of Health, emphasizing that big numbers are not recorded.
Tested again, 200,000. But the members of parliament test for free, because they are going to be the head of state. So these figures they are giving us are not the right figures. All of you here, at least you have heard about one or two people you know who have died in the last 5 days. We are losing all our brothers and sisters because of the negligence of some of the people in government, and the money was given to them.
The president, in his last speech on COVID-19, passed a directive to stop movements of border districts, which has made people from Kampala to migrate to their villages. FDC wonders how such people now in villages are going to be supported by government, as many who left Kampala to the rural areas remain jobless. The party has, however, directed its leadership in different districts to sensitize communities on observing SOPs and those capable to support them with materials like water, soap, sanitizers and masks to help them keep safe.
Which is spread is alarming, and we cannot put our members in danger, even our workers, because so many people visit here. We'll be putting our workers in danger if we kept our offices open, to remain open. You can contact us through media and our electronically. You can contact us, offices will be there.
However, in response to a cabinet position in the ruling NRM by a former FDC Vice President Joyce Sebugwawo, the party president, Engineer Patrick Amoria Toboy, has treated the controversial acceptance of cabinet portfolio by his former VP as self-expulsion, despite earlier contradictory media reports.
You cannot expel anybody in FDC. But you, the member, you can expel yourself if you break the constitution, because our constitution is very clear. Article 12, when you join another party or when you stand as an independent, you automatically lose your membership.
I'm Nafka Farida in Janankumbi.
Thank you, Namfuka Farida, for that report. Now, UBC News Tonight takes a short break, but we return after these messages.
Today in history.
On 14th June 2015, then Uganda's Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi officially announced his interest to contest for presidency in the 2016 presidential elections. He resigned from his role as Prime Minister, which he acquired in 2011, and as the NRM Secretary General, which he attained in 2005, to run as a presidential candidate for the 2016 race. After the election, the Electoral Commission declared incumbent Yoweri Kaguta Museveni as the winner with 60.7%. Chiza Besigye came second with 35.37%, and Amama Mbabazi third with 1.43% in the race that had 8 candidates.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN MOMO withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our MOMO agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Welcome back from the break, and we're glad that you're still watching UBC News Tonight. Now moving on to some more stories, Uganda Parliamentary Women's Association Chairperson Pamela Kamugo has commended President Yoweri Museveni for entrusting women in the new cabinet. She was addressing the media at the Parliament in Kampala. President Museveni's new cabinet of 81 ministers has about 40 females, among them Vice President, Prime Minister and Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Take a look.
I want to tell the public that for us as a WOPA, we are very confident that these women are going to deliver. And I want to thank His Excellency the President. These are, first of all, tested. These leaders have been tested. He knows the capability. He knows each one's capacity. So I'm very sure for us as women, and you know, society still have issues of patriarchy. There are people who despise women. They think if a woman is put in such a big position, they cannot deliver. They always want to look at men as people who can do each and everything. I want to assure you, and whoever did not have trust in these women who have been appointed, please rest, because I'm sure they are going to deliver. And I want to ask these women who have been appointed to these leadership positions, let us work together as women. Let us not pull down our fellow women. If a woman finds you in office, please accord the person the kind of assistance the person has come for. Other women have a tendency of pulling down their fellow women and not attending to other women. Please, we've been on our knees, we've been praying for you. Let us work together.
Now, earlier on in the bulletin, we had a story of Lieutenant General Andrew Guti and 21 other members of the court-martial have today morning taken oath of office, and the ceremony was presided over by Judge Advocate Colonel Richard Tukachungurwa. The Lieutenant General Guti is serving his 6th term reappointment as the Chairman General Court-Martial after the death of Major General Levi Karuhanga, who was the chairman then. Our court reporter Deborah Namamonde has more.
That I will, well and truly.
Last week, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, in a letter dated 8th June 2021, reappointed Lieutenant General Andrew Guti as Chairman General Court Martial and other 21 new militants for a term of 1 year in office. Lieutenant General Andrew Guti and other officials today officially took their oath of office for a term of 1 year.
And that I will duly administer justice according to the Uganda Code Census Act without partiality, favor or affection.
The other reappointed members who also took their oath include Colonel Richard Tukachungurwa as the Judge Advocate, Prosecutors Lieutenant Colonel Raphael Mugisha, Major Emie Charuhanga, Captain Ambrose Guma, and Major Cyrus Commander Mutonji as the Defense Counsel.
That I will well and truly try the accused persons,
and that I will duly administer justice.
And I further swear that I will not, at any time whatsoever, disclose or discover the fault of the opinion of the chairman.
Lieutenant Colonel John Bismana was also reappointed as Secretary and Registrar of Court, Captain Fatuma Wakabani and Captain Nuthin Nabiteke. Among the new members appointed include 3 new prosecutors, namely Major Mark Kugonza, Lieutenant Alex Lesto Mkwana, and Lieutenant Gifty Mubehamwe. The panel also consists of other 6 new members: Brigadier James Lubaika, Colonel H. Chitahunga, Colonel Ekebirungi, Captain Lubadde Seguya, Captain Ellen Chosaba, and Warrant Officer 1 Kenneth Alinaitwe. The reserve members on the panel include Brigadier Vincent Okelo Ladi, Lieutenant Colonel Dimani Kato Oboch, Lieutenant Colonel Christine Nekesa, Major Paul Tumukonde Miragire, Major Sarah Sonka Simwe, Colonel Jasper Baker, among others who also took their oath. Members who were dropped include Major General Joseph Orach, Brigadier George J. Atiang, Brigadier Francis Chemengi Chichomo, Colonel Frank Achekon, Colonel David Gonyi, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Nimanya, Major Douglas M.O. Wesija, Warrant Officer 1 George Matete, Lieutenant Colonel Betty Musuya Wanyera, Major Richard Tuliahabwe, Captain Glorious Tumukonde, Captain Paul Mogera, and Warrant Officer 1 Sandy Y.K. Moses. Lieutenant General Andrew Guti, since he became the Chairman General Court Martial, among the cases he has tried include the conviction of the former patron of Border 2010 Association, Ajabdara Chitata, and his superior General Kale Kaihura, who is still facing charges related to illegal repatriation of Rwandans refugees, failure to protect war materials, and National Unity Platform supporters, among other offences. Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
Now, some very sad news. Tears filled the village of Butobere in Butare Parish, Muko Sub-County, Rwanda District, as mourners laid to rest 4 members of one family who perished in fire yesterday, the 13th of June at midnight. Vianney Armstrong, her husband and father, set fire to the house while 4 were asleep, leading to the death of all of them, 1 mother, her daughters, and 2 sons.
Vianney arukugamba ngo yarukugamba iguru hamwe nenki nensi hanuyi ayineka kuri ya ruguru konka bwenci ari hanuyi weto mwana life hamwe na Maria Kwira abafire abarujo magara genseji nibikirize bange ryo rikuru nitushaba obeze obatase omagara masya ageiguru twacabane turaba umuri mukama we Yesu Kristo mwana wawe omerera
May their souls rest in peace. Now, a UPDF soldier who was captured by the Rwandan army on Saturday evening has been repatriated back to Uganda. Private Bakuru Muhuhu was received at Chanika border at 8 p.m. by a security team led by Captain Peter Mugisha. See the details.
In a statement issued by Rwanda's Defense Ministry on Sunday, the Rwanda Defense Force patrol intercepted Private Bakuru on Rwandan soil in the northern province of Berea District, Chanika Sector, Kamanyana Cell, Majembere Village. Bakuru was dressed in UPDF camouflage uniform, armed with a medium machine gun with 100 rounds, one binocular, one cell phone, and his military identification documents. The Chisoro Resident District Commissioner, Captain Peter Mugisha, said that it was unfortunate that the soldier was captured due to failure to identify the boundary mark.
Next time, be a soldier, you should not make another mistake. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Maybe sometimes you move, once you are moving, you move with the GPS so that you know where you are.
Chanika Town Council residents say that the two governments should agree, make clear boundary to avoid similar incidents in future.
Otherwise, you can't know. There is nothing that can show you have crossed to Rwanda, neither anything that can show you have crossed to Uganda. So it wasn't intended, but he found himself on the soils of Rwanda, and themselves also have been coming, and we have been telling them we were now in the wrong whatever. So it is upon the cooperation and whatever, otherwise.
They say Rwandan soldiers always cross from to Ugandan territory while chasing their citizens who use illegal entries, but none has ever been arrested.
In efforts to improve quality assurance and Uganda's competitiveness as a tourist destination, Uganda Tourism Board is set to undertake a nationwide grading and classification exercise of hotel and accommodation facilities. As a member of the East African community, Uganda subscribes to the East African Grading and Classification Criteria, a system denoted by stars ranging from 1 to 5. The grading and classification exercise will be crowned by the awarding of star ratings to facilities found compliant to the EAC minimum standards. This is therefore a call to all accommodation and facility owners and managers to register and get licensed by UTB as a requirement and get ready for participation. For more information, visit www.utb.go.ug or email qualityassurance@utb.go.ug for details. Uganda Tourism Board, promoting tourism together.
SINOC Uganda, in partnership with the Bunyoro Research Agency and Development Organization, presents to you the SINOC Q3 Oil and Gas Supplier Development E-Conference under the theme Preparedness of Local Agricultural Entities for the Development Phase of the Oil and Gas Sector in Uganda. Panelists include Mr. James Musherure, Senior National Content Officer, Petroleum Authority Uganda, Matthew Kyaligonza, National Content Manager, SINOC Uganda Limited, Martin Byaruhanga, Executive Director, Bunyoro Research Agency and Development Organization, Dr. Emma Naluima, Smallholder Farmer, Dr. Kajura Chaus, Hoima District Production and Marketing Officer, Mr. Ongorok Obin, Country Director, Self-Help Africa Uganda, Mr. Tony Okoa Otoa, Executive Director, Stanbic Business Incubator Limited, and moderated by Mr. Bienkia Fred. The event will be live on UBC TV this Thursday, the 5th of November 2020 from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SINOC Uganda in partnership with Bunyoro Research Agency and Development Organization.
Welcome back from that break. Now into our business news this evening. Kampala Capital City Authority has mounted a staging operation in downtown Kampala to get rid of unauthorized vendors alleged to be operating outside business premises in Chikubo Business Center. The operation, codenamed Mop Up Chikubo, falls on the tour by the Kampala Resident City Commissioner Hudu Hussein last week, who furiously warned the business community of a closure of Chikubo Business Center following a likely escalation of COVID-19 cases arising from the uncontrollable numbers of vendors storming the business center.
Chikubo Business Center is the heart of business in the city, with over 10,000 traders visiting the center for both wholesale and retail purchases on a daily basis. Due to the overgrowing numbers of people that throng the center and fearing the spread of COVID-19, this prompted the Resident City Commissioner for Kampala and head of COVID-19 Task Force in Kampala, Hudu Hussein, last week to ascertain on how traders conduct business with breaching the COVID-19 guidelines set by the Minister of Health.
On CCTV camera, we are going to close you, particularly Chikubo. If you don't abide by the rules, we are going to close you.
Earlier today, Kampala Capital City Authority Enforcement Team, led by Kim Lubega and backed by police, cleared the business center of all vendors who operate outside Chikubo shops, along verandas and walkways to create space and reduce the numbers. Many were seen parking their goods and merchandise to leave the business center premises. Though the operation seemed inconveniencing the vendors, they applauded the enforcers for their efforts to save lives.
Sagala abantu batambule nga tebambadde masiki, abantu balina otambula nga bambadde masiki so okubeera nga tuli balamu muganda wange.
Bafa muzeeyi bituyisizaawo bimali yaffe yonoonese naye ate batuyamba buyambi munnaaye.
Daniel Nuwe Abine, the spokesperson of KCCA, said they are to continue with operations of such a kind to eliminate the numbers of people from converging. He, however, warned them against occupying the streets of the city and instead find their ways inside markets.
We had an operation in the civic center, especially to deal with congestion in public workspaces or in public spaces where we have had people trading in unauthorized areas, as well as causing human jam in most of these areas. We have been in the Chikubo area, which was packed with people, and this was largely because they were trading within the road, that is Chikubo lane, and also in the various corridors that link or that connect to Chikubo lane. These trade in the road and limit the space of movement, and as they limit the space of movement, we find that there is a lot of shoulder rubbing, there is a lot of there are so many packed people in one area, which can easily cause the spread of COVID-19. Those that are in the corridors, we appeal them to get out of the corridors, such that there is proper ventilation throughout the buildings.
Ivan Juko, UBC News.
Now, some markets in Kampala have introduced a 40,000 shilling levy or 2-week suspension for non-compliant to SOPs on the prevention of the spread of COVID-19. This radical decision has been reached to curb the rapid infection of coronavirus, which has hit a mark of 1,000 cases daily. Take a look.
Different markets in Kampala have started enforcing standard operating procedures to contain the spread of COVID-19, with different traders wearing masks and water cans for washing in place. At different entries to different markets, there are security enforcement to ensure everyone entering the market washes hands and is wearing a mask. Meanwhile, some market stalls have tied mark ropes to create separation between traders and customers. At other markets like Kasubi, a fine of 40,000 shillings has been introduced for those wearing masks on the chain, or suspension of 2 weeks for traders who don't comply.
Wegendo babuuzaawo bwe bakukwata nga masiki ekuli mu kalevu ekuli mu kyenyi nga bwe mutera okuzikola emitwalo emeka twagitaddewo fayini ya mitwalo ena obugende wiiki meka ewiiki 2 bwe kyokkirizaako bw'okkiriza okuwa fayini kubanga toyinza kukola kibonerezo kimu twali tukoze kimu nti kya wiiki meka 2 naye ne tuteekako ne bateesa ti akakiiko ka task force ne kateesa nti tuteekewo n'ekibonerezo ekyokusasula emitwalo emeka.
Market managers say they have tried hard to enforce COVID-19 standard operating procedures, but the social distancing and temperature guns are still a challenge.
Tolabye nga tukyalimu omugotteko ogwo tugukolako naye tetulinawo tugukolako ne batugjamu abamu era tusigala corona distance eri gye twalina tetugikoze eki tetugifunye.
Ti abantu bazibu nnyo era tukoze nnyo tulwanyaganye nabo nnyo olwokuba omugateekako masiko wovaawo ng'agijjako wovaawo ng'agikola kati kwe kusomawuza okuliwo mu katale.
Because they might come, people come when they want to buy things, but buying things of 1,000 they come like 4 or 5. For us, we just tell them to stay out and we just let only one person to do what? To buy for them.
Our survey in different markets in the city to find out whether standard operating procedures are being followed ends here at Kasubi Market, and we can point out that despite a few challenges, standard operating procedures to combat COVID-19 has been enforced in different markets. Saddam Mubale, UBC News, Kampala.
Thank you, Saddam Mubale. Now, police, UPDF and district health officials have embarked on a sensitization campaign in Kasese municipality against the deadly COVID-19. They are concerned over the congestion in most of the markets in the center of the municipality. Kasese's central market serves hundreds of people from within and neighboring Congo on Tuesdays and on Saturdays.
There are still many people in major markets, something that poses a risk to the health department. Kasese Central Market hosts traders from within Kasese and the neighboring Congo, causing congestion. Police, UPDF and district health officials have started an operation among second-hand clothes sellers in Kasese Market.
What we have been saying, this is all about behavior change. And slowly by slowly, we shall phase it out.
People have the hand washing facilities, but actually not using them appropriately. However, the market administration had put one hand washing facilities per entry point, but the entry of people is not controlled. So it has to be controlled.
Market leadership has remained aloof in management of markets.
Naffe nga bakolera mu katale ka mawa market naffe tukulaba tonabye mu ngalo toyambadde mask tulina kukola ki.
Police also warns security personnel who flout COVID-19 standard operating procedures.
All operatives are not exempted from following the SOPs, and if they are caught violating the rules, they'll also be prosecuted.
And in our international news, a plan to revive a stumbling campaign to get COVID-19 vaccines to developing countries got a critical boost from U.S. plans to donate 500 million shots developed by BioNTech SE and Pfizer Inc. by next June, part of an expected announcement by a group of world leaders that they will provide 1 billion doses. Take a look.
As part of U.S. President Joe Biden's initiative to help vaccinate the world against COVID-19, Washington has promised to donate 500 million doses of vaccines to be shared between 100 countries around the world. And Africa, through the Africa CDC, is expected to significantly benefit from this donation.
Of the 500 million doses, 200 million will be available this year through COVAX, and will include the 92 countries or so that are in the advanced mechanism for COVAX. And then the African Union has been explicitly mentioned in the communique, so we are very grateful for that.
It will be a Pfizer vaccine dose that the U.S. will send to Africa and the rest of the world through this initiative. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says due to the strict cold storage requirement for Pfizer vaccines, precautionary measures must be taken to ensure effective utilization of the dose.
You can use them easily in major cities where you have electricity and the minus 80s or 70s deep freezers. And those deep freezers do not cost excessively, they are not excessively expensive. With $10,000 to $12,000, you can get a minus 70 or 80 degrees. And that one of them can store up to about 300,000 doses of vaccine. So I think it's a question of having the vaccines in a timely and predictable manner. That way we can plan. Planning is key in any scale-up or vast vaccination program.
Africa has planned to vaccinate at least 60% of the 1.3 billion people in the continent to guarantee herd immunity against COVID-19. And the Africa CDC Director, John Nkengasong, says the U.S. vaccines donation will be instrumental in trying to achieve that goal.
We have to use a combination of vaccines to win this battle against the COVID-19. So if the Pfizer doses start coming in, our advice to member states will be to prioritize major cities. Then as other vaccines like Johnson & Johnson start arriving, because you can easily store them at ordinary refrigerator, you can expand them to the more challenging areas or remote areas.
Currently, Africa has faced significant vaccine shortages, making it a goal of winning the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic a much more difficult task. But the continent is hopeful that with its hundreds of millions of Johnson & Johnson vaccines orders in the pipeline and many more jobs from other sources such as the Chinese government donations, it will soon hit the 60% vaccination target.
And now into sports. The battle between South Sudan and Uganda will be reignited as Uganda's water-mouthed Kolola Moses is set to fight James Majok in a non-title fight this July. Our sports reporter Amon Ngabo with more.
Whoever thought Kolola Moses was to retire in time soon, think again. Kolola Moses returns to the ring against South Sudanese national James Majok in a non-title contest. Majok, who is ranked #1 in South Sudan, has requested for a fight with probably one of the most celebrated Ugandan kickboxer and believes the fight, dubbed Champions Fight in Juba, will revive kickboxing in the land.
What I know about Majok is a young talent fighter. He's very aggressive. Yeah, because I've watched his fight. He's very young and very aggressive. But of course, that's the trail I passed through. So me, I'm training, and I train every day. I have never underestimated any fighter who stands in front of me, because my prayer is no weapon formed against me shall prosper in the name of Jesus. So anybody stand against me becomes a weapon. I have never underestimated any weapon.
Both fighters will face off on the 30th of July before Kolola Moses refocuses on fights locally. A visit to Kolola Talent Academy tells of a busy champion not only preparing for the fight but equally nurturing young talent. This will be the second time Kolola battles a fighter from South Sudan and he believes it will be an easy one.
Training here, the condition, I'm going to hit him. I'm going to hit him. He's not going to finish up the 3 rounds. No. Because if he finish up the 3 rounds, they might make a trick of him saying he won the hilo. I don't want him to break that record. Never. I'm training and I'm going to train again.
After the July fight, Gola will have 3 local fights before traveling to Ethiopia later in December. Meanwhile, plans to expand the Gola Talent Academy are underway, focusing on Olympic sport. Gola says he intends to acquire more land to accommodate boxing, javelin, and other sports disciplines before finally retiring.
All right, well, we wish Moses Gola all the best in his fight against South Sudan's James Majok come July. Well, thank you so much for your company this evening. We leave you with our weather girl, Molin Kenyena. Have a good night.
Yes, hello there. A very good evening to you. It is time now for our weather report here in UBC. My name is Molin Kenyena. Well, we've seen mostly sunny conditions across much of the country, but the good news now is that we start to see some rains that are starting to develop, most especially across the northern part of our country, as well as parts of western Uganda. And this is mainly due to the rain belt that has started to move a little bit towards our country. Now, this is attributed to the low pressure systems that are building up across the southern half of Africa. And because of that, we're seeing that now the rain belt is starting to move a little bit downwards. That is covering part of northern Uganda, as well as the western half of our country. And that could be bringing us rains even tomorrow. But now let's take a look at Tuesday's weather forecast. Well, in the morning, we will start off with a mix of clouds and sunshine. That will be across much of the country, although we're likely to have those light rains that will be across the central parts of northern Uganda. That is where we have Gulu and Kitgum. Now, later in the afternoon, we shall see more rains picking up across northern Uganda still, and that will extend all the way up to the northwestern. That is where we have West Nile, as well as the Karamoja region. We do expect those rains to be over a few areas. And also for western Uganda, specifically the midwestern, we will be expecting those rains as well, extending up to the central part of Lake Victoria Basin. But elsewhere, we shall maintain intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now, our daytime highs, we're likely to have a maximum of 29. That will be across Jinja. Kampala, you'll be at 28. We do have temperatures going up to 30. That will be across the northern part of the country. Karamoja, you'll go up to 31, and we're forecasting temperatures up to 25, but that will be across Kabale Highlands. Now, some of the wild cities we have for you, we are forecasting sunny intervals across Nairobi. Temperatures will be at 23. We're also likely to have a rainy day for Cape Town, and a sunny day is forecast across Dubai as well as Paris, but very hot weather for Dubai. Take a look at that, 38 over there. That will be within the afternoon. Well, that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Molin Kenyena, wishing you a good night.